Thanks for clicking. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm a mortgage broker here in London, Ontario. According to a new poll out by Abacus, over 40% of parents have helped their kids financially in the purchase of their new home. The poll also found that 92% of respondents said that we have to do what we can to make sure the next generations have the same opportunities as previous ones did in finding a house. Who are the 8% that disagree with that?
Hey, in a year, what are you talking?
So what I want to do today is go over the poll's findings as they give us a good idea of not only where these down payments are coming from for these massive purchases, but also do give us some concern for the future. Given that the Trudeau government is set to get heavily involved in housing, and Ontario has released its Housing Affordability Task Force, it's definitely worthwhile to see what exactly is going on in Ontario's housing market. So we'll take a look at the report, go over some concerns, and then go over what to look for in the future. Speaking of the future, we will have more data out next week as the Bank of Canada is set to meet on March 2nd and will be making its interest rate policy decision. Many are expecting it to raise rates to fight the growing inflation in Canada, which is now at 5.1%, and we'll definitely have some updates out on that. Click like and subscribe to get those updates, but for now, let's get into this poll. So we know that 44% of the homes purchased by kids between the ages of 18 to 38 were helped out by their parents. But what was of particular note in the poll was where the parents got that help from. The poll found that 44% of parents dipped into their own savings, 15% dipped into their own retirement savings, while another 15% took out the money out of their home via a second mortgage or a home equity line of credit. These 15% that took out extra money from their home via a home equity line of credit or a second mortgage are of particular concern.
It's very concerning.
Second mortgages are definitely high interest loans, ranging anywhere from, say, 6% all the way up to, I've seen them 13, 14, 15% for a second mortgage that has to be renewed in a year. So these are major high interest loans being taken out to help with the purchase of these kids' homes. The home equity lines of credit, they're usually prime plus 1, 2, 3%. But the issue with those is that they rise with prime. So while these home equity lines of credit might be affordable now, it is somewhat concerning given that many are arguing that we're looking at 7 rate hikes over the next year, and who knows what happens after that. And all these retirees have taken out home equity lines of credit on their houses, and those lines of credit will get more expensive as prime rises over the coming months and years ahead. So while I think we all kind of knew that parents were helping out their kids with the down payments, and we're going to get to that in a minute, it's a little concerning where those down payments are coming from. Granted, it is only 15%, but 15% is still a large chunk of the market.
3 kids and no money.
Also of particular note was how much help was given. Of the 44% who said that they provided financial help to their kids in the purchase of their house, 72% of respondents said they gifted the down payment, with 61% saying they loaned the down payment. On average, those who loaned money lent a little over $40,000, while those who gifted the down payment gifted around $74,000. Given that the average price of a home in Ontario is fast approaching $1 million, right at $998,000, these loans and gifts definitely made up a significant portion of these buyers' down payments. Further, the poll also found that of the 44% that did give or loan money to help their kids with the purchase of a house, 38% of those gifted or loaned money to help with the mortgage payments. So, I mean, $43,000 loans, $74,000 gifts. This is a factor in the rise in home prices that I think is very rarely talked about in today's market. A lot of people like to talk about the lack of supply, low interest rates, COVID, Omicron, etc., 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 as a means of explaining the rise in home prices. But I think this poll and the scale of the amount of the money being given, the sheer scale of the help being provided by parents is a factor in the rise in home prices that really isn't talked about often and should be. Almost nearly half of the first-time home buyers in this market were helped out by their parents, and this is a trend that is unlikely to stop anytime soon. There's been estimates that over the next 10 years, over $1 trillion will be passed down from parents to kids, which very well could and will go to real estate. So in a normal market, as prices go up, we expect demand to drop. People just can't afford the higher and higher prices of these homes. But when you have the bank of mom and dad, when you have 0%, not even loans, gifts going into the pockets of potential home buyers, this definitely helps prop up the market. And I think it also points to the FOMO that we've talked about on this channel before. Parents are going even so far, not even to just dip into their own savings, dip into their own retirement plans, but are also mortgaging their financial future as well to make sure their kids can get into the market.
You are on your 5th mortgage.
This is definitely a fear of missing out, as so many young buyers have been priced out of this market. And as we talked about earlier on in this video, the FOMO is so great that parents are taking out high interest loans just to help their kids get into the market to make sure that they don't miss out. And this trend obviously cannot continue forever. Once we start to see rates rise, which, I mean, never say never, especially in this market, and especially with the central banks a little late to the game as of late, but never say never, by all accounts, interest rates are set to go up. And with many parents taking out these adjustable loans, these adjustable mortgages that will rise, these home equity lines of credit that will rise as prime goes up, and with these second mortgages that are set to renew in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, at most likely a much higher rate than are currently being offered. Clearly, it's not even just the young people that are going into debt. It's not even just the first-time home buyers that are major leveraging their future in order to get into this housing market. It's the retirees doing it now as well in order to get our first-time home buyers into the housing market. And this is a trend that cannot continue forever. Eventually, the cost of borrowing will get so high that it just will not be sustainable. And I definitely think it's important when we're looking at the Housing Affordability Task Force, which we've talked about on this channel before, and we have the federal government coming down with more and more plans, such as regulating investors and the ending blind bidding to slow down this housing market. I think it's extremely important that we remember that there's this whole other portion of the population driving this market along that is so often not talked about. And this isn't to say that parents shouldn't help their kids. Of course, that's every parent's dream to help their kids. But if we ignore that this is an element of the housing market that is likely to continue, then all of our efforts, all of the government's efforts to slow down this market could be done in vain. They won't get the effect that they're hoping for. They won't get the results that they're looking for if they ignore this external element helping to prop up the housing market through gifts, through loans, through help with payments, through help with debt, with closing costs, etc., etc., etc. So it's definitely something to keep in mind in the future, and obviously we'll have updates out on that on this channel, as well as updates out on the Bank of Canada interest rate announcement coming next week, and the inflation rate announcement coming a few weeks after that. Click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, and thanks so much for watching.